Hey, what's going on, YouTube? Salutation and greetings. You're watching KBTV, where knowledge is born, and I'm King David. Today, I want to discuss and read to you the Willie Lynch letter in the making of a slave. Here actually goes the pamphlet right here. It's about 30 pages. It's not really long at all. An advanced reader can read this in 10 minutes, average in 30 or less. All right, but I'm gonna read it with you today, and just follow along and listen, and gain some knowledge from it. That's the whole point. All right, and you can go on Amazon and get this. I forgot how much it costs, but it's cheap. Probably no more than $12. But it's a very basic, important pamphlet book based on a system they use to capture the mind and use the body for labor, for future labor. All right, so we're just gonna dive on in to Willie Lynch letter and the making of a slave. The first Americans in America arrived through Jamestown, Virginia in 1619 as indentured labor or servants. From about 1619 to 1640, the laws throughout Europe and the Americas removed all human individuality from abducted Africans and named them property. The U.S. Supreme Court and Chief Justice, like Raj B. Taney, assured that Taney or Taney, I don't know if I pronounced that right, ensured that the law did not protect slaves, but imbued their right oppressors who physically, mentally, and psychologically abused them with full supremacy. No Negro, whether slave or free, could ever be considered a citizen of the United States, the Honorable Judge wrote. All right, so we're just property. 3/5 of the human being, okay? We're not considered part of the United States, so that's why laws don't, the justice system is not in our favor. In 1640, Maryland became the first colony to institutionalize slavery in America, and in 1641, Massachusetts, in its written legislation titled Body of Liberties, stated that bondage was legal servitude, and at that moment changing the status of the African hostages to automatic chattel slaves that could be bought and sold at the discretion of their white owners. Excuse me. Okay. The Willie Lynch letter. This is the next little chapter. Gentlemen, I greet you here on the bank of the James River in the year of our Lord 1712, basically 1712. First, I shall thank you, the gentlemen of the colony of Virginia, for bringing me here. I am here to help you solve some of your problems with slaves. Your invitation reached me on my modest plantation in the West Indies, where I have experimented with some of the newest and still the oldest methods for control of slaves. Ancient Rome would envy us if my program is implemented. As our boat sails south on the James River, named for our illustrious king, whose version of the Bible we cherish, I saw enough to know that your problem is not unique. While Rome used cords of wood, as crosses for standing human bodies along its old highway in great numbers, you here are using the tree and the rope on occasion. I caught the whiff of a dead slave hanging from a tree a couple of miles back. You are not only losing valuable stock, but by hangings, you are having uprisings. Slaves are running away. Your crops are sometimes left in the fields too long for maximum profit. You suffer occasional fires. Your animals are killed. Gentlemen, you know what your problems are. I do not need to elaborate. I'm not here to enumerate your problems. I am here to introduce you to a method of solving them. my bag here, I have a foolproof method for controlling your black slaves. I guaranteed every one of you that if installed correctly, it will control the slaves for at least 300 years. My method is simple. Any member of your family or your overseer can use it. I have outlined a number of differences among the slaves, and I take these differences and make them bigger. I use fear, distrust, and envy for control purposes. These methods have worked on my modest plantation in the West Indies, and it will work throughout the South. Take this simple little list of differences and think about them. On top of my list is age, but it is there only because it starts with an A. The second is color or shade. There is intelligence, size, sex, status on plantation, attitude of owners, whether the slaves live in the valley, on a hill, east, west, north, south, have fine hair, coarse hair, or is tall or short. Now that you have a list of differences, I shall give you an outline of action, but before that I shall assure you that distrust is stronger than trust, and envy is stronger than adoration, respect, or admiration. The black slave, after receiving this indoctrination, shall carry on and will become self-refueling and self-generating for hundreds of years, maybe thousands. Don't forget, you must pitch the old black male versus the young black male, and the young black male against the old black male. You must use the dark-skinned slaves versus the light-skinned slaves, and the light-skinned slaves versus the dark-skinned slaves. You must also have your white servants, okay, and overseers distrust all blacks. But it is necessary that your slaves trust and depend on us. They must love, respect, and trust only us. Okay, now, when I talked about dogma versus spirituality in my other video, they're basically talking about the doctrine, the belief system. So they put in a belief system that's going to enslave you for at least 300 years or thousands. Okay, indoctrination. All right, and they had white servants, so not just black. Gentlemen, these kits are your keys to control. Use them. Have your wives and children use them. Never miss an opportunity. If used intentionally for 1 year, the slaves themselves will remain perpetual distrustful. Thank you, gentlemen. All right, so that's his method. All right, divide, conquer, separate everything. Have them distrust, loyal. You know, they don't even trust each other. Okay. Next chapter, let's make a slave. The origin and development of a social being called the Negro. Let us make a slave. What do we need? First of all, we need a black man, a pregnant woman, and her baby boy. Second, we'll use the same basic principle that we use in breaking a horse, combined with some more sustaining factors. We reduce them from their natural state in nature, whereas nature provides them with the natural capacity to take care of their needs and the needs of their offspring. We break that natural string of independence from them and thereby create a dependency state so that we may be able to get from them useful production for our businesses and pleasure. Okay? Divide and conquer. Separate. To where you're not self-sufficient. You got to depend on them for everything. Just like we do now, the government. You depend on everything from the government. Okay. Cardinal principles for making a Negro. For fear that our future generations may not understand the principles of breaking both horses and men, we lay down the art. For if we are to sustain our basic economy, we must break both of the beasts together. The black man and the horse. We understand that short-range planning in economics results in periodic economic chaos, so that to avoid turmoil in the economy, it requires us to have breadth and depth and long-range comprehensive planning, articulating both skills and sharp perception. We lay down the following principles for long-range comprehensive economic planning. Excuse me, gotta get some water. Oh, this reading is making me parched. Both horse and blacks are no good to the economy in the wild or natural state. Both must be broken and tied together for orderly production. For orderly futures, special and particular attention must be paid to the female and the youngest offspring. Both must be crossbred to produce a variety and division of labor. Both must be taught to respond to a peculiar new language. Psychological and physical instruction of containment must be created for both. All right, stripped us from our heritage, taught us a new language. That's why we speak in English today. And a whole lot of other stuff. We hold the above 6 cardinals as truths to be self-evident, based upon the following discourse concerning the economics of breaking and tying a horse and black together, all inclusive of the 6 principles laid down above. All right, notice I'm using the word black man and black because they got the Niggr in there, and I don't want to say that. Note, neither principles alone will suffice for good economics, or principles must be employed for the orderly good of the nation. Accordingly, both a wild horse and a wild or natural black person is dangerous even if captured, for they will have the tendency to seek their customary freedom, and in doing so might kill you in your sleep. You cannot rest. They sleep while you are awake and are awake while you are asleep. There are dangers near the family house, and it requires too much labor to watch them away from the house. Above all, you cannot get them to work in this natural state. Hence, both the horse and the black must be broken, that is, break them from one form of mental life to another. Keep the body and take the mind. So they keep the body for future labor, and they take the mind, so that you're not self-sufficient. You're always dependent on them. In other words, break the will to resist. Now, the breaking process is the same for the horse and the black, only slightly varying in degrees. But as we said before, you must keep your eye focused on the female and the offspring of the horse and the black. A brief discourse in offspring development will shed light on the key to sound economic principles. Pay little attention to the generation of original breaking, but concentrate on future generations. Therefore, if you break the female, she will break the offspring in its early years of development. And when the offspring is old enough to work, she will deliver it up to you. For her normal female productive tendencies will have been lost in the original breaking process. For example, take the case of the wild stud horse and female horse and an already infant horse, and compare the breaking process with 2 captured black males in their natural state. A pregnant black woman with her infant offspring, take the stud horse, break him for limited containment, completely break the female horse until she becomes very gentle, whereas you or anybody can ride her in comfort. Breed the mare and the stud until you have the desired offspring. Then you can turn the stud to freedom until you need him again. Train the female horse whereby she will eat out of your hand, and she will train the infant horse to eat out of your hand also. Okay, this is very deep, good basic knowledge in this pamphlet. Okay, it's only 30 pages. We're halfway done. When it comes to breaking the uncivilized black, use the same process, but vary the degree and step up the pressure so as to do a complete reversal of the mind. Take the meanest and most reckless black person, strip him of his clothes in front of the remaining male blacks and the females and the black male infant, and feather him. Tie each leg to a different horse, face in opposite direction, set him afire, and beat both horses to pull him apart in front of the remaining blacks. The next step is to take a bullwhip and beat the remaining black male to the point of death in front of the female and the infant. Don't kill him, but put the fear of God in him, for he can be used for future breeding. The breaking process of the African woman. Okay, they got an African woman hanging from a tree. Take the female and run a series of tests on her to see if she will submit to your desires willingly. Test her in every way, because she is the most important factor for good economics. If she shows any signs of resistance in submitting completely to your will, do not hesitate to use the bullwhip on her to extract that last bit of bitch out of her. Take care not to kill her, for in doing so, you spoil good economics. When in complete submission, she will train her offspring in the early years to submit to labor when they become of age. So, all right, so they breaking her so that when the offspring come, it won't be it won't be hard to even break them because they mentally already going to be trained and programmed to just depend on the slave. Understanding is the best thing. Therefore, we shall go deeper into this area of the subject matter concerning what we have produced here in this breaking of the female woman. We have reversed the relationships in her natural uncivilized state. She will have a strong dependency on the uncivilized black male, and she will have a limited productive dependency toward her independent male offspring, and will raise female offspring to be dependent like her. Nature has provided for this type of balance. We reverse nature by burning and pulling one civilized black apart and bull-whipping to the other to the point of death in all her presence. By her being left alone, unprotected, with the male image destroyed, the ordeal caused her to move from her psychological dependent state to a frozen independent state. In this frozen psychological state of independence, she will raise her male and female offspring in reversed roles. Y'all hearing me? For fear of the young male's life, she will psychologically train him to be mentally weak and independent, but physically strong. So, take the mind, keep the body, But because she has become psychologically independent, she will train her female offspring to be psychologically independent as well. What have you got? You got the black woman out front and the black man behind and scared. This is a perfect situation for sound sleep in economics. Before the breaking process, we had to be alert and on guard at all times. Now we can sleep soundly for out of frozen fear. His woman stands guard for us. He cannot get past her early infant slave molding process. He is a good tool, now ready to be tied to the horse at a tender age. All right, so fast forward a little bit, living in today's society, now they just sleep comfortably, build slave ships on land, call them prison, sentence us to life and go home with a smile on their face and sleep comfortably. They ain't got to worry about us getting back at them because they already captured the mind. Let's move on. By the time a black boy reaches the age of 16, he is soundly broken in and ready for a long life of sound and efficient work in the production of a unit of good labor force. Continually through the breaking of uncivilized savage blacks, by throwing the black female savage into a frozen psychological state of independency, by killing the productive male image, and by creating a submissive, dependent mind of the black male slave, we have created an orbiting cycle that turns on its own axis forever unless a phenomenon occurs and reshifts the position of the male and female savages. We show what we mean by example. Take the case of the two economic slaves and examine them closely. The Negro marriage unit. We breed two black males with two black females. Then we take the black males away from them and keep them moving and working. Say the black female bears a black female and the other bears a boy. Both black females being without influence of the black male image, frozen within independent psychological, will raise the offspring into reverse positions. The one with the female offspring will teach her to be like herself, independent and negotiable. We negotiate with her, through her, by her, and negotiate her at will. The one with the male offspring, she being frozen with a subconscious fear for his life, will raise him to be mentally dependent and weak, but physically strong. In other words, body over mind. Now, in a few years, when these two offspring become fertile for early reproduction, we will mate and breed them and continue the cycle. That is good, sound, and long-range comprehensive planning. All right, I'm gonna stop about right there because y'all basically get the point of what I'm trying to say, okay? They captured the mind, kept the body for future labor, and that's what's going on today. We're not using our minds, we're getting up working, going 8 to 5, working jobs every day because we're tied into the money game. So you got to go up there, get a job, and you're not taking time for self-efficiency and using your brain because on the weekend you're tired from working, okay? So get this Willie Lynch letter, Making of a Slave. Very, very good pamphlet, 30 pages. I read 3/4 of it for you. It's a very important, basic, good pamphlet. Okay, and I suggest everybody should get it. Okay, and we're all enslaved. All right, black, white. All right, don't matter. I mean, we're all in it right now. All right, and that's the lesson for today. Thank you. Tavio luego. Que tenga un buen día. Peace.